A new scooper seems to indicate that James Gunn is interested in bringing DC characters to a theme park, and that theme park might just be Universal Studios. We've got some thoughts for that, and we've got some documents that will be very interesting to you, I think, if you've clicked on this video. Stay tuned here to That Park Place. Well, let's bring it back to that normal conversational level we always do on these discussions here. I'm here with Vash Sky. Vash, you're my theme park expert. Are you ready to be an expert on theme parks?
Let's do it.
All right, let's first start with the context for anyone who doesn't know what's happened. What do you got here, Vash?
Well, we have a report coming out from ThwipT on Twitter suggesting that James Gunn might be interested in bringing DC characters, ride shows, and attractions to theme parks, potentially Disney's competitor, Universal. This is very interesting because this is kind of in the broader context. We have Variety suggesting that Comcast might actually buy out Warner Brothers and their properties, and so it's like, okay, well, Comcast, well, they are the owner-operators of Universal. Could we see some synergy being applied to that if that plan does go through? James Gunn obviously has worked on Cosmic Rewind and Mission Breakout as part of the productions of Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 2 and 3. So, obviously James Gunn wants to kind of get back into the theme park game, it seems. And, well, we've got a lot of things spiraling here that might actually make that happen.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I do remember seeing those photos back in the day of Benicio del Toro as the collector, and everyone was saying, "Oh, he's back for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 or 3." He ended up that was either for Infinity War or most likely it was for Mission Breakout, which I do believe he's a part of. I've never written it. Vash, have you written Mission Breakout? Is the collector in there?
Oh, yes, the collector is in there. Benicio del Toro, I believe, is the actor of the collector. He's absolutely in there. And interestingly enough, Bradley Cooper as Rocket. Now, I say this because in Cosmic Rewind, the Epcot attraction featuring the Guardians of the Galaxy, it doesn't sound like Bradley Cooper to me playing Rocket. It sounds like somebody else. So,
well, if
you want to get a true experience, you got to go to California.
Yeah, they do have, what is it? Jim Hanks is doing the Woody characters everywhere else that Tom Hanks doesn't want to do it. Jim Hanks being Tom Hanks's brother, who kind of looks like him and kind of sounds like him. So, anyways, let's get back to this idea here. First of all, DC rides. There are DC rides and attractions at theme parks across the United States currently. Because of licensing agreements with, I want to say primarily Six Flags. I don't know if there are other parks out there that also have DC attractions. I do know there's Superman roller coasters, Batman roller coasters. Bash, you have any thoughts?
Well, no, I believe Six Flags has owned the rights to Warner properties back when Warner actually owned the Six Flags brand, or Time Warner, I should say. So they've been incorporated ever since. And obviously Batman is what put Bollinger and Mabillard, the famous roller coaster designers, on the map. And they duplicated that ride to all of the Six Flags parks across the chain. It is ridiculous. Wonder Woman, Lasso of Truth, I believe, just opened at Magic Mountain, I believe earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
I want to say.
Okay, so they're still actively using that license.
Yes.
It's not like there's a bunch of decrepit old roller coasters out there. They're actively engaged in using this license. Okay, well, that's fascinating. Now, of course, there is the differentiation between different forms of a license. Obviously, we have at Disney's California Adventure. Is that where Avengers Campus is?
Yes. And that's where the new Marvel Avengers attraction is supposed to go as well.
Now, that is very focused on the MCU. And of course, if you want to see a different form of Marvel, you can go down to Islands of Adventure and go to Marvel Superhero Island, which opened well before Disney had eyes for buying Marvel. And if you go through there, I've been there within the last year, and it's fantastic. By the way, it's an older style Marvel. I want to say around the 1990s style specifically. Even though there are things that pay homage to Golden Age characters in there. It's nice. The Spider-Man that's there. First of all, Amazing Spider-Man is an amazing ride. Incredible Hulk
Absolutely.
is a awesome roller coaster that makes me want to die every time that I get off of it. I think, why did I just do that to myself? I am an old man.
We referred to B&M before. That's a B&M coaster featuring the Hulk with it. Actually, and I believe it's the only B&M with an inclined launch like that is tire driven. Very, very
Is it still tire
interesting
driven or is
stuff.
it
Oh
magnet
yes.
driven now?
No,
Um,
tire driven.
Phew.
Just rode it, and I saw them tires there. So they still have that. Obviously, the Superhero Island was a opening day attraction for that park in 1999. So yes, it's very kind of featuring that kind of 90s cultural vision of these characters and stories and so
Right.
forth.
And the only thing I'll add to that is obviously that attraction has been updated since then, heavily updated. And
Right.
it is a primary it is marketed as one of the aspects of the park.
Yes.
Now, as part of the agreement with Marvel Superhero Island is part of the agreement between MCA, which used to own Universal, and Marvel Entertainment, which is of
Hmm.
course now owned by the Walt Disney Company. This is an agreement that is, of course, continuously referenced here. Yes, I'm bringing up the boring legal documents, but yes, we have them, and they're important for our discussion here. The
Right.
question becomes: could Universal Studios have a DC theme park in if Universal got a hold of the DC license? Could it
Yes.
be a license just for whatever the film properties are going to end up being? Because I'll say the I have a copy of it. I have the 4K right here of the Batman starring Robert Pattinson. Still haven't watched it. Haven't found time to watch this thing yet. I'm thinking that guy's probably not great for theme parks. Maybe Halloween Horror Nights. I'm not saying it's that scary, but that costume kind of fits more in that aesthetic.
Gotcha.
Whereas maybe the Nolan Dark Knight might be more appropriate for a theme park, but I'm thinking you got to go way back to find a Batman that really fits in that theme park aesthetic.
Yeah. We probably don't want bat nipples, but we probably don't want Robert Pattinson. So it's going to be in between there, I think.
You just made the YouTube algorithm go, what?
Oh no,
No, it's
that's
okay. It's
that's
okay.
well,
I'm sure.
bat credit card. How about bat credit card? How about
Yeah,
that?
there we go. So, according to this agreement between Marvel and well, now Disney and Universal, basically they are not allowed to have anything Marvel in a Disney park east of the Mississippi, and all of that is now Universal Studios territory, and they get to do whatever they want. They have maintenance fees in here that they have to pay. They also have to send some amount of their licensing. Now, if you go in the park, they have goods and merchandise within the park that are Disney merchandise that might not have the Disney logo on it, but it's like current Disney shows like Loki and other things like that. Anything Marvel is fair game for Universal to sell within the park.
Which is so bizarre to go into those shops and see like current MCU in this kind of land that is an homage to like the '90s version of these comic book heroes and stories. It's crazy to see Wanda there and Black Panther and Steve Rogers and all these things that you know from the MCU, but don't necessarily associate with this land in a place that doesn't even own it. It is totally bizarre, but
Yeah.
it is packed, and they sell a lot of merch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Thanos over there. Now it is, of course, the Josh Brolin Thanos, which is different than the Thanos that they would be able to put in the parks at this point. Now, I think they're not allowed to incorporate any new characters that they
No,
haven't already incorporated into the parks. So I don't think there'll be any additional characters added to
no,
Universal Studios because this agreement says they had a set period of time at which they could add characters,
right.
and that period has passed. And anything else is fair game for Disney to use. So that's why you get Guardians of the Galaxy, which they never ended up using.
Yeah.
That's why Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is okay for Epcot. I'm not sure, but maybe Doctor Strange. I know he was at least at Disneyland. I'm not sure whether or not he's up for use in Epcot because it gets a little sticky when you wonder who's an Avenger and who was an Avenger at the time of the agreement and all that stuff.
Right, and I think the way that people have delineated, whether or not Disney can actually use this or not in the past is if a character is specifically featured in the superhero island, then we have to assume that it's off limits to the Walt Disney Company. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I did see Doctor Strange as kind of a part of a mural or something. But does that actually constitute as something that can't be incorporated
You might be
via this
right.
language? Is interesting.
So, according to this, I'm going to summarize some of it because I mean, look at this thing. It's 35 parts. We're not going to go
Yeah.
through all of it, but there are certain aspects here that are worth talking about. First of all, they can't even advertise Marvel on the west coast of the United States, west of the Mississippi. They can't even advertise Marvel Superhero Island. So that's where Disney can advertise their Avengers campus. East of the Mississippi, they're not allowed to advertise Avengers campus. They might have updated this in some way. So yes, there could be another agreement out there, but this is the one we're working off of because this is the one we have. There seems to be some kind of loophole for Spider-Man on the cruise ships because we've seen that out in the wild, and those cruise ships do sail out of Florida, even though they probably are technically legally stationed, have a port elsewhere. Um, Quirks of the cruise line business here. But
Right.
what I wanted to look at here, and it's teeny tiny, but if you zoom in your screen, we're not shooting these things in 4K. But I do want to mention, um, according to this marketing agreement, in marketing the second gate, which is Islands of Adventure, MCA, which is Universal. In sorry, I'll restate that in English. In marketing Islands of Adventure, Universal will see to it that Marvel is significant in its marketing efforts, and that Marvel elements are included in at least $100 million of fair value of advertising, publicities, and brochures. Down here, there's a little line which I'm trying to highlight that says any MCA proposed joint promotion in which MCA receives no consideration involving a competing product or entity in the territory covered by a Marvel promotion contained in such notices shall require Marvel's approval.
Right.
Competing product to Marvel would be a comic book character. Um, you could say
Yes.
superhero, but there's some of those crazy people out there that would consider Harry Potter to be fantasy and Marvel to be fantasy. So I think if you're in a court of law, we're probably going to say superhero.
Yeah.
Um,
I think even a judge can determine that. Yeah. I mean, the direct competitor to anything Marvel is going to be DC. So that's probably what they're referring to,
yep.
if not some other entity that is no Rippaverse, right? That
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. But it's interesting that language is included because initially Universal was attempting to court Warner Brothers for their DC license before Marvel. So they actually had concepts drafted up of a Gotham City take on Superhero Island versus a Metropolis take on Superhero Island, including like what is a Batwing ride and all kinds of stuff, which is really, really interesting. Unfortunately, that didn't actually go through. They settled for Marvel instead, and well, now we're here. I find it particularly interesting from a historical perspective that they would include language like this because it would seem that Marvel kind of knew that they were the second choice here, and they just wanted to prevent DC from coming in on their territory.
It's a really good point, and of course, Warner Brothers owns Harry Potter, which we've referenced here before, just a moment ago. Uh,
Right.
Warner Brothers has an existing relationship with Universal Studios, most
Yes.
likely a very lucrative relationship. Both of them are very happy with Harry Potter being constantly promoted in a theme park, which Warner
Absolutely.
Brothers doesn't have any theme parks within the United States. And Universal is very happy to have Harry Potter, the biggest entertainment franchise in the world right now. I'm fairly certain in saying that because when they built Galaxy's Edge at Disney, they were wanting it to be the same draw as Harry Potter, as Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley at Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios.
The famous Potter Swatter is what fans lovingly referred to it as. And unfortunately, that did not necessarily come to materialize. I mean, from what I understand, Universal, or I should say, the when Comcast acquired Universal, right? The investment that the prior Universal company put out for the first incarnation of the Wizarding World was all paid off in the first summer just due to butterbeer sales alone. And
Phew.
that's how profitable this whole thing is. And we know that the line for Ollivanders is stretched around the corner, right? And people are packed
Oh yeah.
in those stores, whether it be Diagon Alley or the original Wizarding World, even on the West Coast there. This thing is gangbusters business, which is why they're investing again with Epic Universe, going back to that well again.
Right. I think that right now Disney would probably think twice before investing any more in Star Wars lands,
Right.
because they're shutting down their Galactic Star Cruiser hotel. Now that has mistakes for another on another level that we aren't going to get into here.
Of
But
course.
I just want to point out one more thing. Merchandising. This agreement includes language about how much that Universal Studios has to dedicate specifically to Marvel merchandise within the park. There's several shops there. I think they do sell some comics, not a ton of comics, but they do sell Marvel comics in
So.
Marvel Superhero Island. I know I've been there. I've been in there, right next to the amazing like $300 statues. They might be $100 statues, but it says right here that retail space in stores themed around Marvel properties, they had devoted virtually exclusively, and in parentheses here, allowing for minor exceptions such as film, etc., but not competing characters to the sale of Marvel items.
Right.
So they're making it very clear you cannot sell DC merchandise next to Marvel merchandise.
Right. And it's very interesting that language was in here. I previously did not know that until you actually brought it up with me, because I was thinking, oh, there shouldn't be any inhibitor to bring this in, but according to this contract, there is. Now, here's what's fascinating about this whole conversation. On a broader level, I think this is one of Bob Iger's, when Bob Iger was brought back to the Walt Disney Company after Chapek was unceremoniously ousted from the company, everybody thought, well, he's the great deal maker. He's this guy that's going to be able to, rub shoulders with DeSantis and get that deal done and do this deal. And I'm like, wait a minute. He couldn't even crack the code when it came to the deal between Universal and Disney for the Marvel rights in Florida. They did come to the table and were attempting to work out a deal. I want to say this was 2015 or so, and that deal just fell apart to the point where Universal retaliated in the way that they did, which was very clever. They redid their Spider-Man attraction to add in 4K
HD,
projectors.
yeah.
And 3D, and do the whole upgrade to all those systems, but that was following those negotiations falling through, and I think this is kind of big. One of Bob Iger's big failures here, not actually getting this deal done. I'll pose this to you, Jonas. Do you think, if, let's say, hypothetically, Comcast were to acquire the IP rights for the Warner Brothers catalog, including maybe even the theme park rights to their DC characters and stories and so forth, do you think that maybe Comcast goes to Disney and say, hey, look, listen, you want your Marvel rights, we want our DC rights, what can we do here? I would think that Disney would want to take Comcast up on that.
Oh yeah, I think if there's any situation in which Marvel Superhero Island ceases to exist at Universal Studios, that is a boon to Disney, because they would rather have the universal rights of using all of their own intellectual property. Now, that being said, there are several things right now that would stop that from happening. First of all, Bob Iger wants it to happen, and Brian Roberts, who runs Comcast, does not want that to happen. Marvel Superhero Island, I think, is big business for Islands of Adventure, and I don't think they're doing a better job than Disney would do with it right now. I'll just flat out say that it's a great themed area in their theme park. It's not crazy where we're all pretending that we're in some strange world where you have to call bathrooms different names like refreshers or pretend that children are not children, they're Padawans or whatever they're doing.
Right.
It's good, it's fun, and there's lots to do in there. You can get a nice pretzel and not be confused about where the water fountains are.
I
And
that is
sorry,
true.
let me also add that Universal currently has the rights to the Hulk. There might be some negotiations going on there on the back end. Universal has distribution rights to the Hulk, which is why there hasn't been a Hulk film since Hulk or
Right.
the Incredible Hulk. Before but that was back when Paramount was mostly running the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Correct. Yeah.
And the third aspect is what is the third aspect? I've lost track here. Yeah, it's Brian Roberts. It's doing great money. It's doing great as far as money goes. Brian Roberts doesn't want it to happen, and Universal, I think, is happy to make Disney's day worse. Oh, the other one is the Hulu deal. Right now, there's this Hulu deal between Comcast and Disney where Disney has to buy out the remaining shares of Hulu. So Disney needs to transfer at least 10 billion, if not more, of wealth over to Comcast in order to pay for this remaining share of Hulu. That whole thing has been sour the entire time for Universal because Universal has been locked out of that deal. That's probably a level of detail we don't need to go into for this video. There's more coverage on WDW Pro and on Valiant Renegade of it. But there's a lot of bad blood between Brian Roberts and Bob Iger, specifically on this issue. So they don't have any bargaining chips to say, please give us the rights to these characters that we're mismanaging right now.
I suppose that's true. I think about it and I go, you really can't do anything with Superhero Island right now, right? You could just essentially maintain it. And then you do have, I think there's a merchandise breakdown, right, where they have to give a portion of royalties to maybe Disney, right, in order to sell that merchandise, versus you could theoretically have your own stuff, which you've already paid for. You can get 100%, and you can expand the land out. You can, build new stuff, which is they're just not able to do at this point. I think there are reasons to go along with that, but hey, look, listen, if you can maintain this just to keep it away from the Mouse House and still collect royalties from Six Flags, that's also a viable option.
That's a really good point. So let's throw it out to, since we're wrapping up this video here, let's throw it to the commenters here. What do you think is the solution here? Is it just everybody just switches and everything's fine? Is it is the current DC, or well, I guess there is no current DC after Aquaman comes out. Whatever, if they want to get the DC rights on spec here, not knowing whether or not they're gonna stick the landing with Batman and Superman and all of that, is the right solution for Islands of Adventure to just hold on to everything they have and continue to report their merchandise sales back to Disney every year on whether or not they're doing well with their IP. We'd love to hear from you. Of course, follow us on social media and the handles above if you want to interact with us more directly. But otherwise, we would love for you to engage in a conversation with the fellow commenters below. As Pro likes to say, you are the electricity that drives these channels. Like, share, and please subscribe, and stay tuned to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com for all the news that should be fun. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.